It is very frightening. And I think it's interesting how 7 individuals are determining our fate and our future, right? It's the Mag 7. It's 7 individuals. By the way, none of them are women, so that's a separate issue.
7 people. That's how many individuals are currently deciding the future of AI, the future of your career, your children's education, and the global economy. That's according to today's guest, so Rashidi. She is widely recognized as the world's first chief AI officer for enterprise.
We are human-led and AI-supported, which means our leaders have to step up.
A former executive at Amazon, Estee Lauder, Merck, Sony Music, a TEDx speaker, and the best-selling author of Your AI Survival Guide. She's not telling you AI will save the world, and she's not telling you it will destroy it.
Automating a process and getting rid of staff, like that's nuts.
Today, we are covering why 5-year strategies are dead.
Things are changing year to year. Maybe great exercises, but become irrelevant after next year.
Why you should never outsource your thinking.
And the more you outsource your thinking to AI, the more codependent you become in it. Well, the more you actually lose your own executive functions and your ability to think deeply and critically and independently.
And the one thing Saul says every single professional must do right now to survive.
I do think experience will be less prioritized in the future. I think capability and aptitude will be more prioritized. Okay, so what if you've had 32 years of manufacturing experience? The experience you've had does not apply to today anymore.
So first of all, thank you so much. It took us some time, but we are here, which is the great outcome.
It's true. It did take us some time.
Thank you so much. I know you're very busy, and I really much appreciate and talking about one of the most hot topics of the current time. Yes.
I don't know if folks have paid attention to it or not, but it will be a different world in 5 years.
And I work with corporate professionals who are above mid-level and senior executives. Yeah. And basic knowledge of AI is generally quite low. I don't know if that's Europe problem. I don't know. But I work with people across the globe. So that's what I see.
I don't think, it's Europe specific. I think in general, folks are busy. They have their day-to-days. You know, when you're in like 8, 9, 10 hours of Zoom, you don't have hours to actually do the work. So then you're working like mornings and weekends and nights to do the work. When on earth are you supposed to catch up, study, learn, experiment? And so in general, what's happening is the total global populace is listening to headlines, listening to clickbaits, listening to the next Instagram reel of how AI is going to make you $20,000 a month if you follow these 5 steps. Like they're just getting the Amazon Prime version of it. No one is being awarded the luxury of stopping and pausing and reflecting on what the heck is actually happening right now and getting up to speed. And what's worse, even if you're up to speed, in 3 weeks, you won't be because everything changes again. So I think some folks are throwing their hands in the air and saying, I give up. I'm just going to let it happen to me. Others are overwhelmed and resisting and saying, nope, I'm not creating a digital footprint anymore. Others are typing in questions to OpenAI and think it's the coolest thing because they can plan their PTA agendas and the weekend meal schedule for the family. And then, you've got big tech and AI native startups where they have entire divisions that are agent run. So it's like the vastness across regions, countries, industries, functions, roles, and down to the individual level is completely different. And so there is no unanimous and synchronized way of moving forward with this. So it's hitting everyone very, very differently. So I don't think it's a European-based thing. I think maybe some other regions are just better at faking it.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a good segue to my question that at this point of time, and based on what you just said, it seems that we are creating a very, very unbalanced world where there will be a couple of countries, top 10 countries, which will be really ahead with AI and everything. And then everybody else who is going to struggle to catch up. Is that how the world is shaping up to be?
That's what all the predictions are showing. I think the part that I argue against is when you say the top 10 countries are going to do really well with AI. I would say, but are they? Because if you think about countries that are leaning in, Russia, China, the United States, et cetera, right? There is a bit of a race. We may have more advancements in artificial intelligence, but what does that mean to the populace? What does that mean to our society? What does that mean to privacy and sovereignty? What does that mean to the way children are being raised? You know, sometimes I go to restaurants and I see parents giving their kids devices during the middle of a meal when that is supposed to be family bonding time, or just to keep the kid quiet. You know, kids are meant to be active. And yes, it's an inconvenience to the parents, but to numb them out, they're giving devices. But the thing is, that's exactly what devices do. They numb us all out. So I wonder that with the advancements, sure, and there's going to be 10 countries that may be leaning in and winning the AI race, but are they really winning the civilization, society, humanity race?
Yeah.
I don't know, right? And if you take a look at some of the research that we're doing at Harvard right now, and some of the stuff that's come out is, you know, you've got Japan that has a growing and aging population. They just don't have enough young adults to support the workforce. AI is a tremendous advantage because they don't have many young children and they don't have a young adult force. But if you look at other markets and other industries as part of the top 10 that you were just mentioning, there's more of a balance, but it's removing entry-level jobs and white-collar jobs, which is why it's different from prior transformations that we've gone through. And then you've got other countries and regions where fundamentally they have a huge populace of young adults, like Africa and certain countries in Latam. AI just aggravates a situation that was already agitated to begin with. So I often wonder what the definition of success means when it comes to the AI race.
Yeah, no, very true. It's such a complex, layered problem. And you're right. People are looking at headlines and think they know everything that there is to know. And everybody's talking, it will be these millions of people will lose their jobs and tomorrow. Is this going to happen? And if it happens, I think countries' governments are absolutely unprepared for something, this scenario.
I think we're looking at the next quarterly gain or the next annual gain. But I think fundamentally, no one is prepared for 2, 3, 4 years from now. Like 5-year strategies, in my humble opinion, are maybe great exercises, but become irrelevant after next year. Like things are changing year to year. So I don't know if anyone's really, truly prepared, nor do I think we are making decisions beyond a 1-year timeline. I mean, if you think about it, our entire governance approach is dependent on having a human in the loop. There are 2 fundamental things wrong with this right now. The first is humans can't operate as fast as machines. And when we hit critical mass with agentic AI or with the machines, we can no longer provide oversight of these cockpit of agents. So we're going to have to create AI security agents to oversee these agents. So now machines are managing machines. Okay, that can get a little creepy, but that's our reality. But the second part of the governance of that is ensuring that we have experts overseeing and managing these agents and managing these AI ecosystems. But if we are removing the pathway of internships, if we are reducing the hiring from our college grads, we are removing the entire pathway of educating the individuals that are going to be our experts in 5 to 10 years, because we're all going to eventually retire out. Yeah. Maybe we have 10 years, maybe we have 15 years, but who's the next generation of experts that we are investing in to be able to have the critical thinking, the discernment, the common sense, the intuition, and the understanding of their area to make sure that these things continue to build, operate, in a governed fashion. And so even that we're taking very short-sighted approaches to, if that makes sense. So I'm advocating for us to continue to keep hiring, young talent, because they are our future.
No, absolutely. Everything you said is absolutely resonates with me. I just get a much better kind of picture when you speak, and it's either one end of the pendulum or the other. Either this is going to, be the most amazing thing, or this will be the worst thing that is going to happen to us. And you're providing some kind of a more balanced approach, which I love. Not a lot of people talk about AI like this. What do you see at your level about regulating AI? Because that's also something that worries me, because we see these big tech companies who decide what they want to do, and at the end of the day, they'll be bigger than some countries, and that's really frightening.
It is very frightening. And I think it's interesting how 7 individuals are determining our fate and our future, right? It's the Mag 7. It's 7 individuals. By the way, none of them are women.
Yeah.
So that's a separate issue. But governments aren't catching up. Policymakers aren't catching up. One, they're not technical. Not to say that you need to be technical, but I don't think they fully understand the ecosystem. And what's driving this massive acceleration and velocity is there's a lot of money to be made. And so you've got the Mag 7 who've created this flywheel dependency on each other so that no one is too big to go down. Then you've got all the money infusements from the VCs. It's too big to go down. There's a lot of money to lose. So everyone's going to do whatever it takes to keep this engine going at the pace and velocity that it is. And government fundamentally is not structured to catch up, and neither are policymakers. I do think that there has to be a few very vocal, influential techno evangelists like Dario from Anthropic and, taking 2 court cases, like brilliant, in my humble opinion, absolutely brilliant. Finally, we have someone of influence who is saying that, listen, we preserve and we protect and we respect the sovereignty and the data rights of our individuals who are using it. No other large language model is saying that, right? And you can use these models and they're wonderful to use, but not to harm other individuals, not for autonomous drone attacks, if you will. So I think if we can have a few of these techno evangelists, I know earlier on Elon Musk had expressed some of these concerns, but I know he's a polarized public figure. But if we can balance out the Mag 7, and if half of them just start speaking about consciousness and human amplification versus the acceleration of human displacement and erosion in the workforce, and they take stances like Dario have, I think we have a more balanced approach moving forward. But right now, everyone's under the gun and it's looking like everyone wants to over automate everything and they're focusing on productivity and efficiency. And I always say, so what if you do more of the wrong things? You're technically being productive, but you got to measure effectiveness. How much more effective are we being for our customers, for our employees, for the growth of our business? And what are we doing to set it up so that it survives in 2, 4, 5, 7 years? But automating a process and getting rid of staff, like that's nuts, because that formula statistically doesn't work. You can't do more with less, because our more is not linearly more. Our more is exponentially more. So you need stronger, deeper talent, and you need to amplify that talent with these amazing capabilities. So it's an and equation. It's not a replacement equation. So I don't know why the mathematics are so funky right now in the marketplace.
And the thing is, if you lay off people and they have no other work, and how is the society going to survive, and how life is going to be? And even if you have more and you're more productive, so
you
what?
Don't have jobs? Yeah, you spend less. You spend less supply and demand for consumer goods, less supply and demand for consumer goods. You are going to have to scale back, and then the flywheel goes into motion. So it's like economics 101, and why we're ignoring those, I'm not sure yet. But there's a few of us who are out there trying to build that balanced viewpoint of there is a way to exponentially grow with artificial intelligence without sucking the soul out of your company while staying true to your operating model and what made you grow to begin with. You don't have to be a big tech or a Mag 7 to succeed. There are other ways of doing it, and not at the cost of people. So I just think we just need some more vocal, influential tech evangelists to take the same stance Daria did, and we'll be okay. I'm cautiously optimistic.
It's sometimes it looks like in movies, like Marvel movies, the bad guy sits in that big tower and he's controlling all the machines. So we are kind of in the same scenario.
I can see an analogy to that for sure. Yeah. I mean, we always say in our industry, it's like, are we going down the Terminator or the Star Trek route? Like the path has begun, but are we going to do it for good, for human exploration and for human expansion? Or the other
Yeah.
route, which I'm not even thinking of. I don't even want it in my
Yeah.
vocabulary.
I don't want.
We're messy, but I still believe in human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. So talking about companies, again, you have a view at quite a number of companies at your level. So what is happening within corporate? Let's not talk the tech guys. We know the companies, etc.,
Yeah.
how they operate. I'm talking about your corporate like Nestle or Citibank or JP Morgan. You know, all these big corps. Do they actually use AI the way they say they use?
So I can't speak for those companies specifically, but I do advise, I do a lot of keynotes, and I'm still an operator at the end of the day. So I do help with a lot of enterprises, not to mention my background was in enterprise. I think everyone has their hand in one shape, form, or another of AI, but AI has become a very ubiquitous term that's also become very generalized because the capabilities of applied AI versus generative AI versus agentic AI, like that maturity is fast. And some folks are still trying to leverage speech recognition or how do I productionalize machine learning models, right? They're not building single utility agents or multi utility agents in a complex orchestration layer. So I think regions, countries, industries, functions, corporate culture, they're all wanting to explore it because no one wants to be left out. But I think in terms of maturity and the level of depth that they're actually investing in, absolutely varies. Yes, there is some clickbaity snake oil stuff out there. There's no doubt about it. But there are also some real investments being made in trying to figure this stuff out and understanding, can we automate tasks that historically have always been repetitive and mundane? Or, we built an entire offshore model in a country that's located in the APAC region. Maybe we don't need to do that anymore. Maybe that is ripe for automation because it's classic data entry, low cognitive work. So I would say that everyone is trying. What's varying is how far they're willing to go. Level of success, because most folks can do a POC, but when you're pivoting from POC to production, it's a very different beast. And once it's in production, getting adoption in and of itself is a completely different beast. There's mixed results with how well things are going into production and how utilized those capabilities are. So this one's not a blueprint or a maturity model. Everyone's on a different journey at different paces.
Are there restructuring? Is there flattening of the corporate organism, and deep restructuring that is going to really impact people's jobs dramatically in the next 2-3 years? Is that what is going on?
I think what's happening is very much a crawl, walk, run approach. And the crawl is we're going to leverage AI. We're going to automate this function. We're going to announce X amount of layoffs. Okay. Then the walk is I've seen some organizations, a few of the Fortune 100s that have combined the chief HR officer with the chief digital officer or the chief information officer because they're making the big bet that IT is going to be the new HR function of the future. And so I'm seeing more titles around chief HR and digital officer, which is interesting because now, right, there's that fusion. There's only a few across the Fortune 100s, but not too many. There's only a few across the Fortune 100s, not too many, but just to kind of show you the pivot that's taking place. And then the third is that I think in the next 6 months to 14 months, we are going to see a pivot from hierarchical org structures to co-piloting org structures. So like humans in a variety of AI capabilities, let's say agents, to cockpit organizational structures where you have individuals, you have experts overseeing a cockpit of agents while they're managing a smaller workforce. We haven't hit that yet, but I do foresee a reformation and a reconfiguration happening in the next year. We're still in the between crawl and walk right now.
So if there is going to be restructuring and combining HR with digital, it just sounds very, very strange to me. And that you need a lot of upskilling of people. So are there training programs? How is this approach? Because you can't just sit and manage agents. If you have to learn quite a lot about many things. to be able to do that? Are there such programs in place?
So everyone has a program. To what the degree they're spending their focus, time, and funding on that program differs. Some have a full-blown workforce preparation program, upskilling, reskilling, courses, 3 hours of co-pilot training, the do's and don'ts of prompt engineering, things like that. But I think what's different about this is it's not a change management strategy. This is just fundamentally a change strategy. And no one has the right answer. One, because the pace of evolution is fast. And so frameworks and models become as quickly antiquated as they're deployed. Two, right now, most folks are treating it as here's how to use the tools that we are deploying versus rethinking how the work fundamentally can change. So if you've got someone who has been in the pharmaceutical industry 14 years and they're a director, and their job is to, in the commercial department, do market surveys and understandings of the different types of drugs and reactions and prognosis. And they want to get feedback from market research, which, by the way, is a very big department and a lot of money is spent in pharmaceuticals. Well, you've got that person who's been doing the same job for 14 years. Yes, you could teach them how to use Copilot, but that's not restructuring the job. That's not reconfiguring the workflow. That's not where AI could potentially assist and amplify that individual. So I think the big pivot is without getting new individuals in to rethink that end-to-end function, how do you leverage the existing talent to think bigger? And I hate to say it, but yes, some folks are capable and want that opportunity because they realize that this process is antiquated. But some, if not most, who've been doing it the same way aren't. So the question is what do you do with that population? Can you get them out of the seat to think bigger and just rethink the way business is done? And that's very difficult.
Yeah.
But to blatantly put it, like when it comes to workforce preparation, everyone has a flavor of it. But I would say the one thing that they all have in common is I don't think they understand in totality that 30 to 35% of your total work effort needs to go towards that. Right now, it's 5 to 10%.
Which is very small.
Very small.
So in terms of industries, which industries are ahead of the game and which are behind?
I don't think it's coming down to industry. I think it's coming down to there's a few different layers to the cake. Whether you fundamentally are tech native or not. So that by default gives the big tech native startups, smaller businesses an advantage who've grown with technology as the core, but they operate within an industry. I think the second layer cake comes down to how much tech debt and legacy systems are there. So financial institutions, for example, have always had machine learning experts, data scientists, thousands and thousands of them. And they use a lot of AI model simulation, right, to run their forecasts and predictability models. So one could say that they're forward leaning, sure, but they also have most of their environment on-prem and not in cloud. They also have heavy regulations, security and governance. So I don't think it's specifically which industry is leaning in, which function, however, that's a different story. So it's not industry and it's not country per se, but I think it comes down to what functions are leaning in. And right now, sales, marketing, customer support, and IT administrative functions are the functions that are adopting and inheriting AI at a faster speed than other functions. And then I think it does come down to if you're if you're tech native or not, because then you can accelerate the development of those capabilities.
Corporations and companies are traditionally very bad in change. I mean, the majority of whatever change initiatives you have, they fail. So how are they going to do that? What is the new approach they're going to adopt? If the change is going to happen, as you said, in the next 12 to 24 months, it's like an awfully short time.
It is. And I think that's what everyone is trying to figure out. We don't know yet. I mean, how do big companies get anything done? It just takes time. Now, in this case, I would say that we can't afford the time. We don't have that luxury. But I don't know how companies are going to solve for that because this is a completely different beast. I don't have the answer.
Gosh. Do you have a how-to step-by-step guide of what they should do to basically get their knowledge to a level that will make them suitable for whatever the future is going to bring? Because as you said, there are no training programs yet. So you have to self-train. You have to do something about it. So what is that thing or these things?
So this is what I advise companies on. And it does take a degree of customization because depending on their internal values, depending on their business model and operating model, depending on their industry and how regulated it is, depending on how much they've invested in their data environment, their infrastructure, the answer is going to be different for them. Mm-hmm. But for individuals, right? So I'm a mom of two. Whether you have whether you have nieces, nephews, kids, or you're leading and managing younger individuals, and even for yourself, there is no other way to keep up than to legitimately block time in your calendar just to learn. And when I say learn, it's fine if you're going to go on YouTube and go down the rabbit hole of YouTube of how to build agents. What are agents? What are the orchestration layers in agents? What are the different security layers in agents? Whatever it may be, you pick your soup du jour. You pick your topic of choice. We are not in a place where you can fake it and make it anymore. The taglines and the clickbaits, like those are going to get old really, really fast. And this is moving much quicker. So you have to invest in yourself. You have to block time to learn. And when I say learn, I don't mean multitask with your phone and computers. You get a Slack message, an email, a text, a WhatsApp, whatever it may be. It is a concentrated, focused effort of 90 minutes to 120 minutes of learning something new or expanding the foundation of what you've learned the prior week and continuing to learn. Now, what's interesting is it sounds so easy. You'd be amazed at how many people can't sit there for 90 minutes and actually try and learn something. We've lost that ability. So it's learning to learn, learning new subjects, building back mind maps, understanding how to recollect, not memorize, and being able to reflect on the stuff that you've learned. And it doesn't matter what it is that you're interested in. There's no other way to keep up if you don't carve out space to understand what the latest and greatest is and become knowledgeable about it. But the challenge that we have is we're so busy, our calendars are so full that we actually end up doing it the opposite way. Because we're so busy, we use AI for everything. And because we're using AI for everything, what do we end up doing? We're not outsourcing tasks. We're actually outsourcing our thinking. And the more you outsource your thinking to AI, the more codependent you become in it. The more codependent on it, well, the more you actually lose your own executive functions and your ability to think deeply and critically and independently. So I am big on saying, please carve out time to learn, outsource tasks and not critical thinking, and try and build time to reflect on all the information that you've been ingesting in the past week, month, year, because we are brilliant at keeping busy when in actuality, we just need to be still for a second to understand what it is we just read or played with.
Absolutely. Carving out time is crucial. And you're right, we're so busy. I remember going back to my corporate years, I was sitting one day with my boss and he said, well, you know what, you have to carve out time to learn this, this and that. And I was like, when?
When? You don't have time.
Yeah, exactly,
are you kidding me? You just gave me 3 things. We had 6 strategic initiatives. AI just came. Now we have 7 strategic initiatives and I was already short of time. Oh, and there's an impatience. And you're saying you have to carve out time, but every time I carve out 2 hours, you just block over it.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. It's in complete contradiction.
But the thing is that what I did at that time was I just went back and I really sat one weekend and I was looking at everything I do. And I was thinking, why I'm doing this? Can somebody else do that? well, I was a senior position, but still, I mean, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And this is how I carved out time. And I remember that very well. And this
Yeah.
is how I approach everything because it's so easy to say, oh, I don't have time. And then you can go through your calendar and you can find at least 2 meetings where you don't need to go because nothing is going to happen.
You're
And
a
nobody is
participant
going
anyway.
to
Hey.
even write down whether you were there or not. But people are afraid to do that because at this moment of time, there's so many changes. They're afraid, oh my God, if I don't go, they fire me. And that's the loop. But
I agree. I agree. It's this flywheel that doesn't stop.
yeah. But the other thing is also we are in an era where information is free and so abundant, and there's so many things to learn. So, I mean, carve out time. But then, what do you learn? Where do you go? How do you sift through everything that is out there? So you don't go down a rabbit hole that is going to take you nowhere, but will take you to a direction that actually is going to be beneficial for you for the future. So how
Mm.
do we know which information to focus on, which apps, where to look for it?
I don't know if this is going to work for everyone, but more than ever, I have to be discerning. And over the years, in our busy culture, if you will, we've given up our sovereignty and ability to say no to things that just create noise, which by default evaporates the ability to pick up signal from noise. So most of my effort is not in knowing what I need to do, but on developing my intuition, on developing my ability to discern, and actually going slow so I can go faster, so that I could discern and understand what deserves my attention. So, for example, I'll give, and it's so silly. I have to read a ton just to keep up with what's going on. And I love to read, but there's not enough time in the day to read. I have books that I need to read to keep up to date with what's going on. I have web articles I need to read. There's websites I need to read. There's courses I need to do. I just can't keep up. But quite frankly, not all of it is of phenomenal quality. Some of it is so high level. Some of it is regurgitation of something else. And I'm like, why waste my time? I just wasted several hours only to learn this is BS, or this is too high level, or this isn't what I wanted. So this for me is where AI tools actually do kick in. So I have a few that I use where I'm like, here's a link to a web article. Give me a summary with statistics. What are the key takeaways and what's the most technical thing it's shared? And based on, and let's say I've got 11 articles I've got to keep up. I have it do all 11. And based on the summary, then I decide which of the 11 I'm going to invest my time in. So instead of wanting to keep up with the pace of 11 articles, I use AI to summarize it for me with the key points that are important to me. And then based off of that summary, I then decide where I'm going to invest my time, print out, go deep, study, reflect, highlight, draw circles, create patterns, and then it gets locked in. Same with books. I have stacks and stacks and stacks of books I need to read and want to read. But not all books have amazing authors, and some of them have phenomenal authors. So I do the same thing. So I actually use AI not to do the thinking for me, but to help me discern where my time is worth spent. And I don't follow influencers or clickbaits or the Instagram reels of like, follow me, 3 steps to a better AI future. I don't. For me, sometimes I'm in more of a technical mood. Other times I'm in more of a strategy mood. So I pick and choose, but I do use AI to filter so that I could discern and decide where to spend my time.
Yeah, no, that's a great advice. And the other thing I've noticed is that a lot of people, including me, when I think about AI, I just have this barrier, which is completely, I haven't set it myself. It is in my mind that oh, can AI do this? And sometimes I don't try things because I think AI cannot do this. And I think this is one of the things that everyone has to overcome and start testing a bit more. And if you have an idea, oh, let me try it, and you'll be surprised how much AI can help you. But absolutely agree with you, because there's so many apps that can actually summarize the YouTube video if you want in a sheet
Yeah,
of
no
paper, and you
issues.
read it and you
No issues.
decide.
I mean, I even use it for like sometimes, I'm a mom of 2 young kids, and thankfully I have a supportive husband and my mother lives with me, which was what allows me to do everything that I do. But every Sunday, my mom spends time with her friends. So I'm responsible for obviously the kids, but the cooking and like whatever needs to be done. And guess what? I work long hours. So sometimes I'm tired. And yes, we can order in, but I care about my kids' nutrition. So, and if I didn't go grocery shopping, sometimes I just open the refrigerator, take a picture, and tell AI, what healthy meal can I cook with these ingredients in place?
Amazing.
Like, it's silly, but that to me is a good AI use case.
Yeah.
Not
No.
one where it replaces my thinking. That's
Yeah.
an area I don't need to think about. I'm going to save my cognitive load to real big business problems and security concerns. But what to cook for my kids when I haven't gone grocery shopping? Here's an image. Tell me what I can cook. Great. Sounds good. I'm all for it.
Great. How old are your kids?
They're 8 and 10.
8 and 10.
Yeah, they're fun
Mine
munchkins.
are 16.
Older, different new set of issues.
Completely different. In the beginning of the conversation, you were talking about the entry level jobs disappearing. And it is a problem. And I started thinking about this because my kids are going to go to university in 2 years. And I'm just thinking, gosh, what is going to happen when they finish? I mean, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
And so with entry job disappearing, how would people who come out from university, what should they do to prepare and to basically get into jobs if they
Yeah.
want to go the corporate route?
So just to make sure we're like very, very clear with the words, it's not entry law jobs are disappearing. We think entry level jobs are the first line of defense to be exposed to AI, and we're already experiencing a decrease of 16 to 18% reduction in hires. So finding a job is a lot more difficult. There's no doubt about it. When I taught at Carnegie Mellon, I heard the same thing. At Harvard, I'm hearing the same thing from my RAs. You just have to work harder at finding a job. There's no doubt about it. So right now, the impact is 16 to 20%, depending on your core area of expertise. Finding a job is getting harder, but the pathway itself has not been completely eliminated. But the reason why it's being exposed to is what do usually first, second, third year college grads do? Research, data aggregation, PowerPoint development. Like it's a lot of the operator administrator stuff to learn the job, right? So you're learning and earning, you're making a living, but you're also learning that space. A lot of that is being outsourced to the GPTs of the world. And it doesn't matter if it's the legal industry, the insurance industry, because the first, second, and third year is a lot of data processing stuff. And those are the prime use cases for AI. So I think those things are important. What they can do, they have no choice but to be AI native. They have no choice. Right now, like yours are in high school and they may be going to college. They're at that cusp. My kids are 8 and 10. I don't know if college is going to benefit them in, 6, 7 years. And I'm a child of immigrant parents where you have to go to school, you have to go to college. Like that was like forced in us. That was the only pathway.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be the pathway of the future, though, in 5 to 8 years, unless we course correct the path that we're on. Right now, the statistics and everything shows that, areas in material science, plumbing, electrical, telco, just materially hand-based jobs are going to be very well preserved. But again, who knows? We'll find out in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
No, absolutely.
I do know that everything is up for grabs right now.
Yeah. No. Actually, even we were thinking that if the kids decide at one point not to go to university, are we going to be upset or not? Because I come from Eastern Europe, and that was drummed into our heads. Okay, you have to study,
Of course,
you
it's
have to
part of
have
our culture.
education.
Yes.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. But now things are changing very fast. Okay,
correct.
so what about people who are in their 30s, 40s? Should they chase, senior position, middle management positions, because
It's
middle
a personal
management again.
preference, but you have no choice but to adapt and to become AI fluent. You have no choice. Every leadership position in the future is going to be dealing with a team of agents, a team of young professionals who are AI native, and you need to understand how to manage them, direct them, and how to strategize, knowing that this is just going to be operationally embedded into everything we do in the future. So my whole goal is to make sure that as AI itself becomes ubiquitous in enterprises and companies, that we are human-led and AI supported, which means our leaders have to step up and become AI fluent.
Yeah.
You can't lead what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many people who say, "Oh, I don't need to." At senior position, they say, "I don't need to know AI. I'll hire somebody who knows AI." But then the argument is, how are you going to know what is
How are you
good,
going to lead
how
them?
good looks
What
like,
is good,
and
what's bad, what needs to be
what is
secured, what's
achievable?
governed, what consequences,
Exactly. It's crazy.
And listen, if you're a senior leader and you're going to retire in 2-3 years, maybe I would agree with that. Like, no problem. But if you're going to be in the job market for another 5-10 years, which I am, I have no choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, everyone has different motivations. So
Yeah.
I do think that this is forcing the complacency out of the workforce. You always hear about the quiet quitters of the world and, folks who just do enough to get by. I think this is going to agitate that layer for sure. But not everyone's meant to have like supreme ambition and rising to the top. But no matter what you choose to do, you have to be AI fluent. It's just our future now, for good or for bad.
And if you're in your 50s, what's the path? That's the thing. And is experience actually a benefit or liability? What do you think? If you've been somewhere for
I do think experience will be less prioritized in the future. I think capability and aptitude will be more prioritized. Because so what if you've had 32 years of manufacturing experience? What the experience you've had does not apply to today anymore. Now, if we were still doing manufacturing the way we were doing manufacturing 10 years ago, yes, of course. But if our work is fundamentally changing in clinical trials, in manufacturing, in digital marketing, in data science, in data analysis, in DevSecOps, in software engineering, what you did 20 years ago is just not relevant to today. It's like the way I used to do, I started my career in data, and I would say one of the first applications or data products that I built was a business intelligence dashboard. And we were using MicroStrategy. Well, that was, how old am I? That was 28 years ago. That is absolutely not relevant for today's skill. Like, I can't even talk about it. It's not even something that should go in the resume.
Yeah.
So
I guess that the only skills that are going to be valuable are the ones that, how you lead people, how you communicate with people, how do you
leading,
deal in crisis
communication,
situations. These
critical
are the ones,
thinking, yes. And I think the advantages that folks that have in their 50s is they still know how to learn.
Yeah.
They still take time off. They still have the ability to reflect and contemplate and connect patterns where patterns didn't exist before. It's not about knowing the data, but it's about connected and cohesive wisdom. And I think that needs to be taught. So I think if you're in your 50s, it's how do you know what you inherently know and you don't even think it's a talent anymore, and teach it to the younger generations so that we don't become, codependent on artificial intelligence, and teach them to learn, teach them to think. I never thought I'd ever have to teach my kids to think, but I'm not teaching them algebra and geometry. I'm teaching them problem solving and critical thinking in a subject area they don't know much about.
So it was an amazing discussion. I will let you go.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. So if people want to follow you, learn more about you, where can they find you?
I appreciate that. Just look up my name, Sol, S-O-L, Rashidi, Rashidi. It's phonetically pronounced on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all of the above. You know how it is. And then if you want to get into details around frameworks and models and prior keynotes and TED Talks, my website, solrashidi.com, has all that info.
Thank you, Sol. It was really a pleasure talking to you. Really
Thank you so much. Pleasure was all mine.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. You too.